On to Keeneland for the Bluegrass. Let's take a look at that field 14, a giant field. The 3-year-old signed on. Post-time favorite was Vekoma. Vekoma really has not run a bad race in his 3, now 4 lifetime starts after the Bluegrass. He deserved to take some money in here. I was very dubious about how far he wanted to go. I thought maybe one turn was going to be what his real sort of forte was. And as these distances got longer, didn't know that I loved his prospects about stretching out. I could have said the same for a number of horses in here. But guess what? A couple of the horses that I thought would excel going shorter, they ran 1-2 in here. Let's take a look at the stretch run of the Bluegrass.
Chest Chief is 5th back toward the inside, coming toward the 8th pole. Vekoma has the lead out to 2 lengths now. Some Like It Hot Brown changes lanes to the outside 2nd. Signalman is in 3rd. Chest Chief is 4th. Win is 5th. Vekoma, the leader, past the 16th pole. He has the advantage out to 5 lengths. Back to Some Like It Hot Brown. Signalman, then win. It is Vekoma for Javier Castellano and trainer George Weaver.
Vekoma provides another victory and enough points to get into the Kentucky Derby starting field. He gets the job done as the 7-5 favorite over Win, who runs 2nd at odds of 3-1, and Signalman runs 3rd at odds of 6-1. Let's take a look at Vekoma. He is now 3 of 4 lifetime. He's never been out of the money in 4 lifetime starts. Just under $790,000 in career earnings, owned by R.A. Hill Stable in Gatsa Stables, trained by George Weaver, bred by Alpha Delta Stables, LLC in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Javier Castellano, and you can see the pedigree. He is by all-world stallion Candy Ride out of a Spitestown mare named Mona de Mama. 94 Beyer speed figure, 119 pace adjusted time form US rating. The raw time form US rating is a 115. The interesting thing about Vekoma, he's not the prettiest of movers. That's been well documented. He's got that big old paddle out there, but he's a good horse. He just shows up and runs. He goes out for a good trainer in George Weaver. He has Javier aboard. That's never a bad thing. And he was close to what I would consider... Timeform US didn't color code one way or the other. I think that they were rather tepid when you look and see the chart. Because 23-1, 47 flat, 11-2 for 3/4, 37-2 for a mile. Excuse me. It doesn't look... It looks honest enough, going a mile and an eighth. But when you look and see that Vekoma, Signalman, and Some Like It Hot Brown at the 3/4 mark were 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, makes me wonder how fast this pace really could have been. Now, on the flip side, those were 3 of the choices in here, so perhaps it was just a formful event. The horse coming out of this race, I like Some Like It Hot Brown. I think he should go back to either the synthetic or the turf. I would take a shot. He's going to be a bubble boy as far as the Derby is concerned. I would prefer to see him on grass, but look, if he gets into the Derby field, I'm not going to fault the connections there. Signalman, I just don't think he's really improving all that much. I think he continues to run comparable races. He has this newfound, I don't want to say newfound speed, but he is laying closer to the pace, which should be advantageous, but he was no match for Vekoma in a spot like this. I find it difficult to believe that all of a sudden, 4 weeks from now, he's going to be able to turn the tables on that horse. The horse that I am interested in out of this race is Win. Now, Win, I have gone on record a number of times saying I didn't think longer would be better. Perhaps he was a closing one-run, kind of one-turn horse, at a one-turn mile or 7/8 of a mile. I also questioned his ability to get out of the gate. Now, in this race, he earned an 88 Beyer and a 111 pace-adjusted and raw Timeform US rating. So the 111 for him is straightforward. On paper, that's slow as far as a Derby prospect is concerned. But there's more to the story with Win here that I think meets the eye. And unless you go back and watch the tape, or you watched it live and you picked it up, I think there's more here for this horse. First, he broke cleanly, which is a positive. It's a step in the right direction. He doesn't seem to have a lot of oomph out of the gate, but at least he was clean this time, as opposed to breaking inward or breaking slowly. So that to me is a positive. We're trending in the right direction. When you look and see down the backside, he's very comfortable down to the inside, toward the rear, allowing things to kind of play out. When you look at the chart and see that there was no real running happening except for Win, who was coming and making up ground, and this is the key point when you go back and watch the tape, rounding the far turn, Win is beginning to find his stride and pick up his momentum, and he is forced to check pretty substantially. It wasn't an end-all be-all, but boy, it certainly ended his chances of winning. And I wouldn't have faulted him at all if he ended up running a decent 5th. Instead, he wheels out to the clear, and it looks like it takes him a minute to find his stride, but when a rad cracks him left-handed, he takes off, and he finishes full of run. Now, when you look at the final eighths of a mile, I'm going to rattle off the top 5 finishers. And I'm going to skip over win-win-win for a moment. So I'm going to go 1, 3, 4, 5, and then back to 2. Vekoma, 13:45. Signalman, 13:29. Some Like It Hot Brown, 13:59. Chest Chief, 13:59. Win-win-win got his final eighth of a mile after being steadied on the far turn, losing his momentum, which on dirt is basically draw a line through it. No chance that you're going to be able to have any real run. He gets his final eighth of a mile in 12:69. So for a horse that I've long been concerned about his ability to finish as the distances got longer, he's making me look like an idiot here. Okay, so he didn't win the Tampa Bay Derby. He didn't win this race here. I've got to be honest with you. He finished nearly 5 lengths faster than the winner did, and it was a day or a race where no one was making up any ground. Now, perhaps a product of a little bit inferior company behind them, but he's the only one making up any ground. He had a legitimate issue rounding the far turn, and he finishes 4.5, let's call it, lengths faster than the winner did. All of a sudden, I'm looking at a horse like Win-Win-Win, and pace and trip. It's always sort of the caveat you need to throw out there with the horse coming from off the pace, especially with 19 other horses, mile and a quarter. A lot of things can happen. But all I'm saying is he is really quickly, to me, looking like a horse that, you know what, the numbers aren't going to look sexy. You're going to need to improve. But on the heels of this effort, I think the foundation is now there. And with the way that he finished, he may slip through the cracks a little bit, but I think there's reason to believe that had he not been stopped on the far turn, that he would have threatened to win this thing. He only lost by 3.5 lengths, and he finished well below that sort of 13-second threshold. And again, if you want to sort of project going forward, another eighth of a mile, if you just want to say he's going to double up the 12:69, and I understand it's not that easy, but if you just want to use that as an example, let's say 12.7, I mean, you're well below that 26-second final quarter mile mark, and that could be a major thing. He needs to be a little bit closer to the pace, I think. That could be a major concern for him. But when I go through and I look and see, it's not as though he was crawling early. So let's go back to High Cal, and I recognize they're two different surfaces. They play differently. I get all that. But if you just want to look and say, from a fractional standpoint, what a horse like Win-Win-Win is able to carve out quarterly, as opposed to a horse like High Cal, but particularly with the opening quarter. High Cal was well over 25 seconds. Win-Win-Win was at 24:67. So he's not going that slow early on. It's just that the early pace, it was fair enough. A horse like Vekoma went 23:43. He had every right to slow down a little bit toward the end, but it's not as though they were blistering early on, in my opinion. Because in the Derby, they're probably going to go at least that fast. And then you're still going to need to navigate that extra eighth of a mile. But you look and see, Win-Win-Win for that fourth quarter, keep in mind, he was steadied hard. 26:15 as opposed to Vekoma's 25:91, and Vekoma was in the clear and set down for the drive. I do wonder if Win-Win-Win all of a sudden, he may have won me over in this one race. Am I going to pick him? I don't know. We need to wait and see. A lot of things can happen now, between now and 4 weeks from now. But I think there's reason to believe that he is better than what his numbers would suggest, and I've probably been wrong all along. That maybe the additional ground is not going to be a bugaboo for him. Maybe it's actually going to be a beneficial piece for him. He won me over with this race. I think the fact that he was able to overcome some adversity and still finish as well as he did, I like the effort from Win-Win-Win quite a bit in here. As far as the rest of the field, I don't really have a heck of a lot to say. Dreammaker, I'm done. I don't know what you want to do with this horse now. Seems like if he's in behind horses, he just doesn't run. That's a problem. Maybe you experiment with an equipment change, you try something else, but whatever it is right now, it ain't working. As far as the rest of the field goes, it was pretty formful up at the top. 4 of your 5 choices, they ran 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do with this what you will. And again, I think Some Like It Hot Brown, I like him as a horse. I think a different surface is going to be beneficial for him, whether it's turf or synthetic. But Vekoma, I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about this horse. He continues to run well. I do wonder still a little bit for him about an extra eighth of a mile, but he ran well enough here with the tactical ability that, you know what, I'm not going to argue with anyone that says he's a legitimate player for the Derby here in a few weeks. But Win-Win-Win, he's the one I'm most interested in coming out of the Bluegrass. He finishes second behind Vekoma, but I think it was a promising enough effort. Vekoma does get the job done, though, with a 94 Beyer speed figure winning the Bluegrass and a 119 pace-adjusted Timeform US rating. The raw number is a 115.